akváriumcső nem tudom.
Ja, aki fújni.
Mert akkor az...
Nem tudom ki,
Mert ugye van ez a
Sándor
díja,
is vagy melyik
a
csinálta, az a srácnak a csövét fújjogatta állandóan. Hát ebbe is van, hogy így lemegy, aztán oldalról ki tudod csavargatni, azt szét tudod szedni. Mert lényegében ezt is, mert itt van, innentől föl, de itt még mindig derékszögbe be kell neki fordulni.
Olyan nyomások vannak, hogy ugye elmondottak.
The bullet is a fool, the bayonet is a fine champ. Probably you all heard this very powerful phrase from Alexander Suvorov, the famous Russian general from the Napoleonic Wars. And to tell you the truth, this was not even true when it was first said back in the days of the French and Napoleonic Wars. Because victory could only be achieved with combined arms efforts, which means that firepower was just as important as the cold steel. The glorious bayonet charge in most cases was necessary to end the game on the battlefield, but before such event the enemy had to be weakened by the firepower of the artillery and infantry. However, the role of the cavalry was not as clear. In the early 19th century, it was already starting to lose its role on the battlefield. It was useful for reconnaissance and chasing the enemy, but it was not a decisive arm anymore. In the 1850s, all major armies generally adopted percussion rifle muskets. And though the expectations fed by the excellent accuracy of these rifles was high, the change on the battlefield was much slower. We usually all agree that the rifle and the rifle-musket of the mid-19th century is a much better arm compared to the smoothbore muskets of the Napoleonic ages. Well, and if you read the majority of the secondary sources covering the history of the rifle and the rifle-musket, you will see them praising its destructive power and raising it high above the capabilities of the smoothbore musket. But did the rifle-musket kill more soldiers on the battlefield than the smoothbores? As usual, these questions need some more clarification, as if we check the major battles of the Napoleonic times and the major battles of the mid-19th century, like the battles of the American Civil War or the War of 1859 or 66 in Europe, we see that the casualty rate is the same, or nearly the same. It averages between 10 to 20%. But if the rifle-musket was so devastating, why there is no difference between them? But before we carry on, let me thank you for your support. Your donations through Patreon, buying our American Civil War cartridge boxes and percussion revolver cartridge formers, or US Arsenal stadias and the rubber printing plates for Arsenal stamps, they all help us create quality content for you. This is such a good value that helps to keep the Capandball channel alive. Thank you very much again. The accuracy of the flintlock musket was limited. First, it fired a loose-fitting, heavily undersized musket ball from a smoothbore. Second, it did not have a rear sight. Third, the soldier's drill emphasized only the loading and firing of the musket in a proper rhythm and way, not the accurate shooting. The lock time of the flintlock was painfully slow, and as an average, every fourth shot was a misfire. But even with these limits, it was still capable of hitting an enemy soldier up to 100 yards. To understand the reasons why the casualty rates did not increase dramatically after the adoption of the rifle musket and the rifle, we have to go into tactics, because even if the rifle was clearly a better arm, the infantry tactics did not develop too much till the mid-19th century. I have 5 reasons to prove this. First, even if the rifle musket was available in large numbers, the drill was still based on Napoleonic time drills that was emphasizing volleys instead of targeting individual enemy soldiers. Marksmanship training that was still a privilege of the elite light troops like the Jaegers or the Rifles. The average soldier did not really understand the relations between the curved trajectory of the bullet, the axis of the bore and the line of sight. This all resulted in short combat distances. Even if the rifle sight of the rifle musket was graduated up to many hundred yards, the real firefight was still fought under 100 yards distance. Second, the rifle musket was still a muzzle loader, meaning that its rate of fire was the same 1 to 3 shots per minute as in the case of smoothbore muskets. The percussion cap did increase the number of successful shots by 20% as it was a more secure ignition compared to the flintlocks, but all this together was just not strong enough to revolutionize infantry tactics. Third, even if the rifle and the rifle musket were the weapon of the new age, the infantry tactics were still based on Napoleonic principles, meaning that the infantry battalion still deployed into close combat formations like the column, like the line, like the square, and skirmishing up until the war of 1866 and 1870-71 had only marginal role on the battlefield. Fourth, even if there were important developments in firearms tactics, like the use of fire at will command or the use of firing by fire command, it was still predicted that there will be one certain point when the cold steel the bayonet is needed. And the answer is simple here. If you're letting the horses go and you let your shooters, your soldiers shoot in fire at will command, the ammo consumption will be higher. It is the same for the firing by fire command, because it just runs through the complete line, this wave of firing, and then it starts over. There is always somebody who is shooting at the enemy. This will increase ammo consumption. And in the middle of the 19th century, the average soldier still had 40 to 60 cartridges in the cartridge box, meaning that he was good for, let's say, 30 minutes firefight only. Fifth, large portion of the officers still believed that the bayonet charge, the cold steel, will be the decisive moment of the battle. Well, the experiences of the mid-19th century battles proved that they were completely wrong. If we check the battles of the second half of the American Civil War, we can see that the number of the successful bayonet charges are tending to zero. Probably this is causing the balance between the Napoleonic casualty rates and the mid-19th century casualty rates, because in the Napoleonic times we still had many casualties, many damage, injuries caused by the bayonet. But in the 19th century, the rifles are getting better, the muskets are disappearing, so we have a more accurate fire, but much less damage with the bayonet. So we have a balance here. Probably this is why we have this balance. Proving that the myth of the bayonet was disappearing in the mid-19th century, there were debates whether to fix it before the battle or just before the bayonet charge. Because if I put it on the barrel, well, we have something that is not helping the soldier in the fast loading procedure. In 1861, there is a British account that is dealing with this problem. It says, on the other hand, when soldiers are caused to fire with their bayonets fixed, there is certainly a disadvantage, though it may be a good practice for actual warfare. If the rifleman who seldom fixes bayonets is to shoot accurately without a bayonet, it seems quite clear that the position drill ought not to be conducted with the fixed bayonet. So if I fix the bayonet on my rifle, it will not be as comfortable. If it's not that comfortable, it won't be so accurate. But there is another reason that can contribute to inaccuracy, which we call today barrel harmonics. When I fire my rifle musket, there's a little explosion here at the breech. The shockwave of this explosion runs through the barrel. The thinner and longer your barrel is, the more effect it will have. This is a kind of wave that just runs through the complete barrel and stops somewhere at the end of the muzzle. So there is no way that your bullet is leaving your muzzle from a completely stable position. We don't really care about this because if nothing changes on this rifle, then the exit point will always be the same. So your rifle will be accurate. But what happens if I put a heavy weight like a bayonet on the muzzle of my rifle? Well, then I change the whole system. Means that compared to the situation when I did not have that weight on the muzzle, my impact point will be different. So we have two very good reasons for the inaccuracy of the rifle with the fixed bayonet. But my question is, how much effect the bayonet has on the rifle? And I'm not the guy who only talks, I want to try this. I will try it at under 100 yards distance, so let's simulate something that is the mid-19th century normal firefight distance. Let's see what kind of effect the fixed bayonet has on the rifle. As in my previous film, I recreated the original service load for my original Springfield rifle musket straight from the American Civil War with a mid-bore. This is a beautiful rifle, very accurate rifle. And I, of course, bundled my cartridges, not because it has anything to do with accuracy, but because it looks just damn good. Bundling is done according to the way that is mentioned in the 1841 US Ordnance Manual. The authentic wrapper I'm using is created with our capandball rubber printing plates or stamps that are exact copies of the labels of the US, Confederate, British and Austrian armies of the 19th century. If you wish to support us with buying them, we have 25 different types. They are available in our webshop and in our eBay store as well. The links are in the video description below. Let's do the reference first, so I'm going to shoot the rifle, eliminating all possible human errors from the prone position and without the bayonet. The cartridges I'm using are charged with 60 grains of 1.5F Swiss powder and a 510 grain mini ball sized to 5.775, just as it was done in the 19th century in the US Army. The bullet is lubed with a mix of beeswax and tallow.
Lövök egyet, elsőnek a csappontjuk, töltök, másik csapolnál. Aha.
Érdemes lemenni és újjakat megnézni.
Mikor lesznek?
2 héten belül. Mondja. De ha véletlenül nem jönne össze ez a vezetékes szám, és valami mégse tudja megbeszélni ezt, hogy időpontot.
Hello!
Nézem én.
Tök fasz, így tudod, egy ekkora szerkentyű kézzelje, itt állsz rajta, és egy joystickkal irányítja. Bekeveri magának a ját, és rakja le előtt.
Könnyebben sül el nagyon.
Ide meg kimegy szokott lenni ezével.
The group could be covered by a square of 7 by 8 centimeters. The complete group could fit into the 9 ring, which is absolutely not a bad group for an old rifle like this. Okay, so we can hit the enemy without the bayonet fixed, but let's check if we can do the same with the cold steel attached to the muzzle.
De így legalább sok felvételt tudtak csinálni, látod a készülményt.
Igen, igen. Hogyha hirtelen felrobbantod, akkor egy jó videós elem az egész.
Nem csak egy ilyen húzott, hanem meglátható, hogyan felhőzni.
Ezt nem kéne.
Nem tudják garantálni a teljesen szikromát.
Nem csak egy ilyen húzott, hanem meglátható, hogyan hogyan felhőzni. Nem csak egy pillanat, hanem magyarázható, hogyan felhőzni.
És mennyivel lőhettek ezzel a pólárfogóval szerinted? Hány?
Amennyiben a hüvelye tőle. Nem cizellálunk. Egy hüvely ülők volna. Ha nem volna,
Nem csak egy pillanat, hanem magyarázható, hogyan felhőzni.
The 6-shot group with the bayonet was even a bit better, with 7.9 by 5.5 centimeter square. Not much difference indeed, but I'm still curious. Probably the change of balance because of the fixed bayonet will have more effect if I'm shooting the rifle in the standing position. Let's check it. My plan here is to simulate warlike rifle use, so I'm not giving too much time for aiming. Okay, nobody's shooting at me, and I'm pretty sure that it would have a strong effect on my motivation. Probably you notice that I'm not using the original ramrod. I turned the replacement from brass, so I'm not damaging the rifling.
meg is szólt, hogy miért nem hoztam neki eladni. De hát azt nem, de hát úgy gondolsz, hogy majd hozok.
Tegnap még én is úgy volt, hogy mondom, van ott még ilyen mindenféle maradék, mondom, így hozod a dobozt rá, annyi ólom van benne.
Meg ez zajosabb plusz.
Ez indult, tudod, egy nylon szatyorra, puskára.
Nem, az a tisztítottak fehérre az elővájukat. Na, akkor most megint zaj lesz. Azt képest, hogy csak ilyen lájtos töltem van benne.
Én is csinálnak létre, de van, amikor azt nem keresem. Van, az elején csinálja.
Well, my group opened up, of course, but it is still well within the size of a human chest.
Ilyen akváriumcsőnek lenni.
Hol is már össze, hogy milyen egy
Igen, látszik rajta, de forró.
mellek kokillából öltött lövedék fel.
Hol marad a? És a kis töltem.
Keményített a maximális töltet, ami még jó. De ez a lövedék, amiből még van, mit tudom én, még 30 darab legalább. Ez lövök egyet, első is belőle utánpotlás. Nem, ez a puha lövedék, amit a nitrai jön. Egyedül neki van hozzá a felület. És a nitrai zsívélyősködni meg kifejezetten. Tehát Józsi az az ember, aki soha még semmilyen nem fogadott el egyetlen fordulatot.
Igen, ezt. És akkor adja az olmot, az idejét.
És adja az olmot, az idejét, a mindent, az úgy nem fel.
Adja neki valamit.
Nem fogad el, semmit.
Nem.
Semmit.
Se kencé, semmit.
Semmit nem fogad el. Tehát egész egyszerűen már én érzem kínosan magam, ha...
Mit érzi magától?
Hogy én kínos vagyok?
Igen.
Azt mondja Tibi, hogy önt neki lövedéket, és nem semmit. Még csak az se, hogy valamit cserébe, az se nem. Részt meg a
Kizárólag ajándékba hajlandó. Nekem most van egyedül ilyen kokillája, hogy idő után már tényleg.
De ki tudja a kokillát? Szerintem...
A nagyéri általában hisztis picsán üzemmódon látott, és mikor megkérdeztem tőle, hogy átalakítanak, és között, hogy hát kedves barátom, már nem olyas csinálni, hogy tényleg
dolgozni, de hónap vagy hónap után nagyon szívesen. Nem, ma nem.
Böcsületes hozzáállás, mert nem verál senki.
Nem, ha biztosan.
Hihetetlen ez a kis, hogy ilyen kicsiket sokkal.
Előbb ropogtat.
Well, I don't know if it was pure luck or better rifle balance, but the group with the bayonet fixed was a bit better again. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I really have to say that under 100 meters or 100 yards, shooting with the bayonet fixed or without the bayonet fix does not have any kind of difference. Meaning that I could not really prove the pros of shooting the rifle without the bayonet. I'm pretty sure that at larger distances it will have the effect. The only slight difference we could see is a little difference in the height of the group, but that does not really affect the tactical accuracy. Under 100 meters, with or without the bayonet, the rifle will kill if it is sighted properly. Let's summarize the results. The group shot from prone position with fixed bayonet was 26% less than without bayonet. It was more balanced from the standing position, but the group was still 8% less with the bayonet fixed. Okay, so there were bayonets that never pierced the breast of an enemy. Then what purpose they had? First, it looks perfect on photos and parades, giving a determined look to the recruits. During the Civil War, photography was already quite popular. Such modern methods like the wet plate or collodion processing allowed nearly all soldiers to make photo memory for their loved ones, always showing a strong and brave soldier. Second, According to George McClellan's Manual of Bayonet Exercise printed in Philadelphia 1856, it proved to be an excellent gymnastic exercise, a useful amusement, and gave the men great additional confidence in themselves and their weapons. Bayonet drill, just like the musketry drill, played an important part in turning a civilian into a military machine. The drill of the mid-19th century was much more friendly than the drill of the 18th century, of course, but it still had to strengthen the body and the heart of the individual. The bayonet drill, of course, received less and less attention, while the target shooting got more emphasis. Third, important for camping and reenacting, you need bayonets for stacking arms. When the soldiers are on the rest, the delicate rifles should not be laid on the ground. With the bayonets crossing one another, they are set up to form a conical pile. Fourth, we actually have sketches from the American Civil War showing soldiers digging trenches with the bayonet, or at least loosening the ground. Well, that was not a bad idea, because all the armies realized in the second half of the 19th century that the soldiers will need some tool to dig trenches. Fifth is a set purpose. If it was properly bent, it could be used as a body hook to remove dead bodies from the battlefield. This was also called the spook hook. Battlegrounds with large number of casualties needed more days to clean up. These hooks were used to pull the partially decomposed bodies into the temporary or permanent graves. Sixth, it has a psychological effect. If you fix it, you feel strong and brave, and your enemy will shit into his pants. So ladies and gentlemen, I really hope that you enjoyed my little time travel again. Many thanks for supporting our channel. If you like what I do, then please subscribe, like the video and comment. If you really like it, then please share it with your friends. So ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay cool and keep your powder dry.